This is Walt Disney. He was an animator, a businessman, a train lover, and arguably one of the first ever pioneers in designing theme parks. When he opened Disneyland in 1955, Walt set out to create a place of wonder and fun. He divided it into 5 lands based on his own personal interests. Adventureland was based on his love for animals and nature. Frontierland, as well as Main Street USA, was based on his own patriotic values. Fantasyland, because he made cartoons. And finally, Tomorrowland, a high-tech playground of science where Walt could show off his optimistic dreams and ideas for the future. However, there is one widely cited issue with Walt Disney's Land of Tomorrow. This issue being time. As the years went by, the American frontier, classic Disney movies, and the jungle all remained the same. The future, however, was always changing. Many people believe that the biggest issue with this futuristic spaceport is something known as the Tomorrowland Problem. Eventually, the future always comes, and as such, Tomorrowland is seen as the only section of the park that needs constant renovation. I believe, however, that the real biggest issue with Tomorrowland has been staring at us right in the face the entire time, spouting engine noises and emitting noxious fumes into the air. This is the Tomorrowland Speedway, which opened with the Magic Kingdom in October of 1971. To the untrained eye, it could appear like any ordinary theme park attraction. However, it's actually fucking terrible. The Tomorrowland Speedway fails on every level and is undoubtedly the worst theme park attraction ever built. It is preposterous that this cheap, terrible excuse of an experience has remained in operation for as long as it has at Walt Disney World. It has opened with almost every single version of Disneyland across the globe, and they're all garbage, especially the one found in the Magic Kingdom. In 2020, Disney decided to close Stitch's Great Escape, a theater and the round attraction located in Tomorrowland, presumably because they believed that guests would enjoy their trip to the Magic Kingdom more if they hadn't ridden it. I believe, however, there isn't a single reason that the Tomorrowland Speedway should remain open, and it is the only ride at any of the Disney parks that actively worsens the guest experience. Yes, even worse than the ride where Stitch burps in your face. So to prove how terrible this ride is and why they need to get rid of it, I'll first need to take you back to the beginning. This is Walt Disney. He was an animator, a businessman, a train lover, and arguably one of the first ever pioneers in hating car-dependent infrastructure. Towards the end of his life, Walt's vision of an optimistic future had bloomed beyond Tomorrowland at his theme parks. He wanted to build a city where all of the newest and most innovative technologies could thrive. In this prototype city, known later internally as Epcot, citizens would travel around from place to place within small overhead magnetic trains, known as people movers. This was decided after Walt noticed traffic congestion affecting big cities in the early 1960s. So what was his solution to this? He wanted to build all the roads underground, away from the people's sight. He wanted all motor vehicles to be virtually removed from his futuristic city project. So let me ask you this. Why does the Walt Disney Company in 2024 continue to keep this ride around if Walt didn't like it? Especially since Tomorrowland is surrounded by people movers, monorails, and locomotive trains, which all outclass these outdated and inefficient machines that Walt personally didn't like. It's clear that the ride was, and still is, no longer considered futuristic in any way. Walt Disney built Autopia for Tomorrowland in 1955. This was an attraction where guests would board cars and drive on highways that did not exist yet, aka the future. But by the next year, 1956 to be exact, Dwight D. Eisenhower had passed legislation to construct a vast connected interstate system all across the United States. This thing wasn't even futuristic for 12 months, let alone 70 years. And when they built the Magic Kingdom in the late 60s, some sick individual said, let's rebuild the racetrack again in Tomorrowland, and not a single person batted an eye. Then this happened again. Twice. Walt once said that the parks were always meant to be changing and evolving, and that some attractions should eventually come and go with the passage of time. But clearly this excuse only applies to rides with high operating costs, as the Tomorrowland Speedway is still here to stay, presumably forever. It's what Walt would have wanted. This ride is so loud and it smells like shit. According to Disney, there's nothing more futuristic or sci-fi adjacent than the smell of gasoline. And according to this statistic I just made up, the smell of gasoline in Tomorrowland lowers guest happiness by 900%. Now, I'm no mathematician, but 900 is a really big number. It is so insane to me how the rest of the Magic Kingdom's audio and scent design is so beautifully orchestrated. the smell of candy through Main Street, the sound of fife and drum in Liberty Square, even the sound design in the front of Tomorrowland by the Astro Orbiter, with its computers blipping and blooping. Yet once you reach the Tomorrowland Speedway, it feels like you're at a lawnmower convention. We need to get rid of this ride, to bring more futuristic smells and sounds to the forefront of Tomorrowland. We need more computer blips, more Astro organs, more chili dog burgers. Take a look at this map of the Magic Kingdom. It's a little blurry, but do you think you can spot the Enchanted Tiki Room? How about It's a Small World? Can you pick them out? Great, because here's the Tomorrowland Speedway. This miserable slab of concrete takes up half of Tomorrowland just to stink it up and make it loud for no reason. Imagine what potential rides, shows, stores, and restaurants could fit into this space. Imagine, if you will, a beautiful Tomorrowland Plaza where children roam free and the peaceful sounds of techno music and rocket ships fill the air. A sci-fi utopia where one can spend their Magic Kingdom day relaxing and enjoying the time spent with their family and friends. Well, anyways, here's what's there now. Good luck trying to think of that beautiful picture with all this going on. The Tomorrowland Speedway is straight up ugly. It's big, gray, and boring. The only source of color are the cars, and even then, the paint is rubbing off because Disney doesn't care enough to put any effort into it. If you look at the other versions of the attraction, such as Autopia, they at least tried to install some small dioramas, billboards, and little figurines to make it make sense in Tomorrowland. It doesn't really fix any of the core issues with the attraction, but at least it's somewhat pretty to look at, if you cover your ears and nose, that is. At the Magic Kingdom, the only thing you can see from the Tomorrowland Speedway is grass, trees, Tron, though you can see that from anywhere in Tomorrowland. You know, I don't need to tell you how boring the Speedway is. You've been looking at it this whole time. For this particular YouTube video, I started looking at older footage of the attraction, just to see if anything changed after all these years, other than the track getting shorter and offering less ride for the guest. But as it turns out, the ride used to be a lot more colorful than it is now. You can see some shades of yellow, blue, green. There's even a scoreboard back there. I don't know what it's used for, but at least it was something. A sign that somebody cared about this piece of shit. But even then, it was like putting lipstick on a pig. The ride sucked then, and it sucks equally now. It's a permanent state of sucking. This ride sucks. When I was 6 years old, I was finally tall enough to ride the Tomorrowland Speedway. It was my dream, to be able to drive my own hot rod of a car. I had dreams that made me feel powerful, dreams of being the king of the road. I imagined the wind rushing through my hair, the thrill of rounding the turns, and the beautiful hills of lush foliage that would treat my eyes as I took home the gold cup by crushing my opponents in a good old-fashioned race to the finish. I was a huge fan of Mario Kart DS at the time, so I was excited thinking it was going to be like a real race at the Magic Kingdom. However, just before setting foot inside that dainty, pathetic roadster, the sound of loud engines and the scent of gasoline was what filled the air. Once the ride began, I was greeted by the bumps and hiccups caused by the iron bar hugging the bottom of my car. I wanted to be free, to travel on my own, to lead on my own adventure. But alas, the metal bar was all I could turn to. After 4 minutes of disappointment, I had at least expected my gold trophy to await me. But instead, I received a driver's license, just to rub salt in the wound. I already knew I could drive. I just wanted to prove that I was the best driver of them all. To put it bluntly, the reason I tell this story is because I'm sick of people preaching that the Tomorrowland Speedway is worth keeping around because it gives kids the opportunity to drive. The truth is, kids aren't stupid. If they wanted to drive in the first place, they would hate this ride. And even if they didn't, the illusion of control is not enough to satisfy their craving for entertainment. It's like when you tie a carrot on a stick in front of a horse. Except we're not animals. I expect to be treated with dignity at the Magic Kingdom. Rides like the Haunted Mansion, Pirates of the Caribbean, even Buzz Lightyear's Space Ranger spin. Don't insult your intelligence like this one does. It was even less insulting when Stitch burped in my face. Okay, so if kids don't like this ride, then who is it for? Well, it's not for infants because the ride has a height requirement. It's not for teenagers because all they want to do is drive real cars and ride roller coasters. It's not for adults because they just spend their morning riding the Tomorrowland Speedway down I-4, having a horrible time doing so. It's not for old people because old people don't like anything. It's not for people who like short lines because it takes forever to start driving the damn car. It's not for car enthusiasts because all the vehicles look like this. This ride isn't for anybody except the sadistic aliens living in Tomorrowland who think this is the future, when in reality, this thing is an aging abomination that needs to be destroyed. The only people riding this are people in denial or poor ignorant tourists who don't know any better. This isn't even an attraction, it's a goddamn trap! I'd rather ride the carousel. I'd rather have Stitch burp in my face. I'd rather become the 1000th ghost in the Haunted Mansion, or blown up inside the Big Thunder Mountain. I'd rather have Stitch burp in my... As I've made clear throughout this project, the Tomorrowland Speedway needs to be completely scrapped. It is the only ride at Walt Disney World that leaves guests less satisfied than before they experienced it. In case you are somehow still not convinced that it should close, here's a few more reasons that I just came up with while editing this video. So now that I got my point across, you're probably thinking, Domingo Pepperoni, what is your angle with this video? Why did you make this? Well, the truth is, I made it because I want to see change. This is a call to action. If you've gotten this far into the video, you probably go to Disney World often. I'm a huge fan of the theme parks, and I'm passionate about the experiences that are offered at places such as these. It really pains me to see a ride of this quality remain at the Magic Kingdom for so long. Ever since it opened, it was like a parasite, leeching on the back of the world's most visited theme park destination. Well now, I say no more to this ride's torment. No more gas smell and loud engines in Tomorrowland. We're not gonna take it. Next time you visit the Magic Kingdom, take a trip down to guest services and, respectfully, file a complaint about the quality of the Tomorrowland Speedway. After a while, management will take notice, and will finally rid the Magic Kingdom of this horrible, gas-ridden curse. Then they can replace it with literally anything else. I mean, they could build Frozen, they could build Star Wars, they could build Harry Potter, I don't care. An empty plot of land and construction walls would be better than the Tomorrowland Speedway. Before I end this video, I want to leave off with a quote. A quote from the man, the myth, the legend himself. This is Walt Disney. He was an animator, a businessman, and a train lover. And this is what he had to say about the Tomorrowland Speedway before his passing in 1965.
Close it! Just close it! Tear down the goddamn speedways! All of them! I hate it so much, it's so ugly! I hate these stupid cars! Why do they keep this thing around